What if Darth Vader kept the 501st? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Vader stares at the lightsaber in his hand, rolling it through his palm as he inspects the design, trying to make sure that it is what he thinks it is. Its appearance is unmistakable. He had modified this weapon what felt like a lifetime ago. Ahsoka. Though his armor betrays nothing, there is a strange pang within himself, an emotion he had not thought himself capable of feeling anymore. Shame. Guilt. She had died, and though not directly by him, Vader had helped pull the trigger. He grips the weapon tightly and looks over the landscape. Though the snow obscures most of the landscape, he can see the tops of clone trooper helmets, some with blue markings, many with orange ones, others with no markings, and one or two with red ones. His men, those he had sent with Ahsoka to help her liberate Mandalore, those whom he had served with for 4 long years. He bled and laughed and cried with them, those who followed him without question, not because they hated or feared him, but because they loved him and truly believed he knew what was best. Vader then turns to his new men, the troops Palpatine had just assigned to him. Stormtroopers, he calls them. But to Vader, they are fools. Many claim to be soldiers. Some had fought alongside him when he was still Anakin during the Clone Wars. A few certainly had spirit, but they were too few. Most were fools who were sent simply to fill up the ranks. No, this would never happen. If he were to be the Emperor's strong fist, he would need real soldiers. Those with steel in their backs, and those who would follow him, not just because they feared someone. He curtly tells the officers to finish up salvaging the ship and warns them not to damage the graves left behind as Vader returns to his ship. He begins researching where the remains of the 501st might be. Most remain on Coruscant, having remained under his service, but other scattered units are scheduled for decommissioning along with the rest of the clone army. Vader puts out a message, requesting that they be transferred to his new army. This is met with surprise, but none dare question him, simply raising some of the issues with what is to happen to these clones. Vader's only response is that he will decide what shall happen to them. As the first units arrive, Vader greets them personally, and the clones are surprised to see a change in his demeanor. While it would be an exaggeration to say he was happy, the normal cold Sith seems almost pleased. He treats the clones with respect, referring to them as fellow soldiers.
Greetings, men of the clone army. I brought you here because I intend to reconstitute the 501st. In its prime, this unit was feared across the galaxy, as we've won battles across hundreds of systems. Now the Empire has provided me with new soldiers, but one whose lack of skills I find disturbing. No, if the 501st is to continue its role as the most respected and feared unit of the Empire, it must only be made up of the best. That means you.
Hearing this, the troops all stand a bit straighter. The men snap to attention and salute the Sith. Many just happen to be doing what they love. But as the unit begins to organize themselves, Vader hears some unusual stories. The reports of the clones being decommissioned were widespread, but just how it was done was not. He had expected the clones to be allowed to relocate into the Outer Rim, with lands allotted to them, or perhaps find jobs as planetary defense forces. Some of their most experienced officers have already been tasked with training the new stormtroopers. Instead, the reports he finds are of clones simply being left out in the streets, left to fend for themselves. Worse still is that others are reportedly being imprisoned for minor infractions or expressing dissatisfaction with their positions. This takes Vader off guard, as it is an act of cruelty that stuns even him. He approaches Commander Appo and talks to him about it.
Surely these rumors are exaggerated.
I certainly wish it were, sir. But they aren't exaggerated. They aren't rumors. Some smaller units within the 501st, those stationed away from the main unit, have already been disbanded.
How do you know about this?
I saw them. A couple of 501st guys in the streets. I wanted to help them, but the new Empire restricted how much we interacted with civilians.
Vader demands to be taken where Appo found these men, and they soon arrive on an industrial world in the Mid-Rim. Vader walks through the streets. The people wisely give way for him as Appo leads the way. They make their way over to the lower districts, where the poorest of the poor make their home. A soldier from the 501st, his armor battered and his face unwashed. He holds out his helmet.
Spare a coin for an old vet, Lord Vader. Apologies.
At ease, soldier. But what are you doing in a place like this?
The army said there was no more work for me. They're cutting back on the budget. There are lots of other clones here too.
The trooper takes him to the businesses across the city, where clones are working as dishwashers, factory workers, or street sweepers. Vader simply orders them to follow up. Once they are assembled, he looks over at them. Though their faces are sunken, he sees they still stand rigid with discipline.
The Empire says that they have no further need for soldiers like you. I am not so naive as to think that. We live in a galaxy of new threats, and I need men I can depend on. I offer an invitation to you, soldiers. Will you serve me?
The clones all step forward in unison, saluting to Vader. But the Dark Lord is not convinced. He hands them each a blaster and orders them to perform their training drills. Not a single man fails. Of course, this causes a bit of controversy in the capital as the Senate is debating the new Imperial recruitment bill. Many believe that the future lies with conscripted soldiers and wish to replace the clones entirely. But as the debates rage, a dark presence looms over the room, and Vader appears. This causes the room to go silent, as the man rarely appears on Coruscant, and never in the Senate, but he makes his way to the center of the chamber.
So, these are the men and women deciding the fate of the Empire. What a poor crop it is. You all spend your time debating what should be done with the military while throwing aside your best and brightest.
You have thoughts on these matters, Lord Vader?
I do. I am the ruler of the military. I believe I should be consulted here. The clones have served me well for years. I will not part with them so easily.
The clones? They have served their purpose, and we must consider more cost-effective options.
You wish to rule an empire and then balk at its costs.
These clones are too pricey, and there are too few, and...
Twi'lek's eyes widen as he is lifted off the ground. Vader begins to choke him with the Force, leaving him gasping for air. Around him, the senators all gawk in surprise, but Vader ignores them, and the guards reaching for their weapons.
The clones are our best troops. They are veterans with years of experience. That is value, and yet you wish to throw something like that away because it would take some money from your purse. If the Senate will not take them, then I shall take the clones. They will serve in my new 501st.
We do not have the budget, my lord.
Then I suggest you begin looking for places to cut, because otherwise I will look for things to remove, unless you doubt my ability to command the military.
No, I do not. You have my permission to build this legion. However, keep in mind that they must be successful to justify their existence. This empire does not tolerate failure.
Believe me, I know.
But though Vader might get his army, it is Palpatine who gets the last laugh. They must serve the Empire, and their first mission is to target a rebel cell that has challenged the Empire's rule. This cell has been targeting prison ships, information centers, and isolated garrisons, and it is rumored to be made up of clones. This is clearly made to test their loyalty and ensure that Vader and his army are loyal to no one but the Empire. Unfortunately, being clones means they also have the skills that come along with it, including facing larger armies. Rather than engage them personally, these rebels disappear into the vastness of space. They don't even bother fighting, but focus on their main task, which is attacking isolated ships and installations. Vader tries sending men to protect facilities, but the attacks seem random as the clones ignore supply depots and weapons factories in favor of data centers. They also seem to have no allies or presence in the population, as when they send men into the nearby planets to investigate, they find no reports of rebel activity. Even local troops have no idea what the rebels want. Rather than continue this wild goose chase, the clones in Vader's army gather and begin trying to figure out what they are targeting.
As you can see, they've hit 3 prison ships in Sector 4, a data center on Dissix, and have reported presence in Ryloth before disappearing. All of these places have a clone presence. It appears they are monitoring them for the activity of their fellow clones.
Then they are not interested in an all-out war. They want their brothers.
It seems like it. I'm already requesting access to the reports of any captured clones recently, which means they intend to capture them as well. Perhaps we should position guards on all prison ships.
No, that would only divide our forces. These clones are just as experienced as us, so we must engage them at full strength.
All right then. Perhaps we should concentrate the prisoners into a single ship. That way, our troops can escort them.
I disagree. This is a rebellion, which means they require certain things like commanders and officers. Find the highest ranking clone we've captured. That is where we position our troops.
Soon enough, a trap is set as a clone captain on Ryloth is arrested for treason, and Vader immediately takes control of that ship with his men acting as the guards. They escort him to their processing facility on Tantus as planned. The operation goes on as expected until the scanners detect a series of small ships approaching the prison ship. Vader has his troops assembled for battle lights. A rebel freighter drops from hyperspace, angling directly toward the hangar bay. It's accompanied by several small boarding craft that rush into the facility. Vader watches from the observation deck. His breathing echoes in the silence of the command platform. He doesn't move. He doesn't speak. The rebel ship dives closer, and the air begins to hum with tension. Soon, these ships make contact with the transport, and reports of combat break out all across the vessel as the 501st engage with the rebels. These all come with confirmation that they are indeed clone troopers and have defected from the Empire. Vader rises to his feet and reaches for his lightsaber. Whether they are clones or not, they plan the operation well, as they make sure to divide the Imperial's attention with multiple attacks along with a starfighter squadron that keeps them from focusing their forces at a single point. Rex leads one such group on board the ship. He already suspects something is wrong, given that they are facing clones instead of the normal stormtroopers, but he has no time to dwell on it. Instead, he continues to fire his blaster, stunning his fellow clones as he pushes his squad deeper.
We go in fast. Get Hauser. Get out.
Gregor cracks a grin as he checks his rifle. Doom stays silent, checking their drop trajectory. Behind them, a dozen rebel-aligned clones follow, their armor mismatched but marked by history. It hurts to see the men of the 501st trying to keep him back, but Rex cannot help it. They need to free Hauser. As the clones fall before them, they are the first group to reach the detention facility. Other units are reporting chaos as they must contend with the stiff resistance of the clone defenders. Rex issues orders and prepares to pull them out as they take the elevator down. However, when they arrive, they are surprised to see not more guards, but Darth Vader himself. Rex freezes when he sees the Sith Lord. Although he doesn't recognize him, he knows dealing with him will be trouble. One of his troopers rolls a droid popper forward, but the Dark Lord freezes it midair and disables it with the Force. The rest of them open fire, but his lightsaber springs to life, parrying and dissipating the stun rounds as he advances on them. As he moves, his powers lash out, lifting up clones with the Force and throwing them back. Others are slammed against the wall and sent tumbling aside. Rex sees his men falling around him and tries to rally them. He dodges the stray blaster bolts and rushes forward, trying to get in close, but his blasters are yanked from his hand, and he's lifted off the ground. Vader pushes him against a wall and then unleashes a shockwave that throws most of the clones back.
You're not getting through, Captain. I have need of you.
I don't talk to Imperials.
Then what of an old friend? We share a common goal, Captain. I, too, seek to ensure the security and safety of the clones.
General?
Yes. I did not expect to find you leading this rebellion.
We're taking back our brothers. We don't want to fight.
You never did, but you always found one. But here you may find an ally. I will keep Hauser, but I offer you a chance to help me reshape the Empire. They sought to dismiss the clones, but I see they still have a role in the Empire.
Because we're useful.
Because you are loyal and serve them well. That is not something you can simply dismiss.
If that is how you feel, then you should know that we aren't the only ones the Empire is going after. I've been getting intel about the Empire. They're starting to take more people from the CIS planets. I've seen it myself. Sounds like they're using them for something.
It is not our mission.
It is. What do you think we're gathering these men for? We're not just gonna go off hiding. Some of us still have fight left in us. If you really want the 501st, then you need more than a name. You need to remember what we stood for.
Vader stares at the captain for a long moment, but he remains stubbornly defiant. He draws himself up while his men finger their weapons, watching Anakin warily. One word is all it would take for them to fire upon him. They will fight to the death.
And what is it that compels you to keep fighting, Captain? These people have never served you. They have no love for you.
Maybe, but fighting for what's right is what I was bred for. I've had to watch the Republic throw my people aside when they were done with us. I won't see it happen to anyone else. I would have thought that you, of all people, would agree with that.
Very well. We will discuss it.
Vader orders his men to stand down and allow him to take Hauser, and just as quickly as they arrive, the clones vanish back into the Outer Rim, but send Vader coordinates to their outpost on Teth. When he arrives, he sees the rebels have taken over the old monastery he had captured years ago and fortified it. Rex and Anakin slowly begin to compile notes, highlighting the situation in the Outer Rim. Seeing his general here, the former captain does not spare any details. He shows the Dark Lord how the Empire is arresting dissidents by the hundreds, and others are rumored to be becoming slaves. The last report strikes a chord with Vader, whose fists tighten at the mention of slaves. All his life, he has opposed it as an institution, and now he hears Palpatine is bringing it back. The message is clear. He had hoped to change the Empire by simply taking it over, but that will not do. He must completely conquer it. With the stormtroopers still being trained, there is a window of opportunity, as the Imperial military is not nearly as strong as it presents itself to be. This means if they strike swiftly, they may stand a chance of victory. Rather than make a secret of their betrayal, Vader openly declares it by attacking Imperial depots, securing weapons and supplies for the rebellion. Hearing of their plans to reintroduce slavery, Vader is thrown into a rage and devotes himself to this war. With an experienced army and a knowledge of supplies, he begins cutting a swath of destruction across the Outer Rim. He uses Rex's data on where the Empire is gathering these dissidents and targets these areas, arming the populace which is already hostile to them. Many eagerly take this opportunity to rise up and join the clones. Soon enough, their army swells by thousands more as entire planets rise up in support of this rebellion, turning this from an isolated revolt into a new faction. But Vader is not interested in waging a guerrilla war like the clones, but a true war. He has the 501st spearhead the offensive, letting them barrel into the Imperial defenses and overwhelm the poorly trained stormtroopers guarding them. From these facilities, he begins to raid and pillage to gather supplies and recruit more soldiers. As the Imperial military scrambles to deal with these new attacks, Vader sends agents deep into the Imperial territories and urges the people to rise up in support, promising the protection of his army. He has learned one thing from Palpatine, and that is that the people long for protection and will flock to those who grant it to them. He continues to offer his support to these people, promising just that. However, though not fully trained, the Imperial Stormtrooper Corps has perfected the art of terror thanks to Palpatine, and they respond with brutal reprisals. Many areas that support rebels are burned to the ground, and their population is slaughtered. All of this is meant to strike fear into people and remind them of who they serve. Soon, the dead begin to pile, and Anakin is placed in a difficult position as he lacks the numbers to fight everywhere, especially with his veteran clone army. So instead, he decides to strike at the heart of the Republic. While the regular soldiers are battling with stormtroopers in the galaxy, Vader decides to send ships directly to Coruscant. He has spent time studying the battle there and learned that the CIS had used the Nexus route to reach Coruscant undetected. Attacking the capital is simply a matter of getting the coordinates from one of the ruined ships of the CIS fleet. With that, a strike team consisting of the 501st Legion soon appears over the skies. With much of the fleet directed elsewhere, they can do nothing as gunships pour down and deploy the clones into battle. Where they were once protectors of the city, they are now conquerors as hundreds of troopers rush into the Senate building and cut down the guards as they storm the Senate building. Blue-striped troopers land across the plaza outside the Senate rotunda. Some drop straight through the open ceiling. Within moments, the Capitol is under siege. Guards panic, rallying into defensive lines, but it's too late. The clones breach the gates with coordinated precision. Riot shields shatter. Blasters roar. Senators scream and scatter as the 501st troops surge in from every corner. The marble halls become a battlefield. As they march, Vader finds himself chuckling.
John Brown's body lies a mouldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a mouldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a mouldering in the grave. As all keeps marching on.
Who's John Brown, sir?
An old Tatooine folk hero. He tried to free the slaves from the huts.
Soon enough, the rest of the clones pick up the tune, singing it to themselves as they storm the Senate building, taking it room by room. Some senators throw their hands up and surrender. Others try to flee. A few, those long suspected of corruption, reach for concealed blasters. They don't get the chance. Clone officers consult sealed dossiers. One by one, they identify the worst, the slavers, the war profiteers, the ones who'd voted to decommission the clones. They're executed without ceremony. But while Commander Apo, Hauser, and Doom handle cleaning up the senators in position, Rex leads a strike team down the corridor. Flanking him are veterans of Umbra, of Geonosis, of Mandalore. Ahead, a group of crimson-robed guards stand between them and the Chancellor's door. The Red Guard ignite their force pikes.
Drop him.
The guards lunge forward, spinning their weapons with deadly precision, but these are clone commanders trained for the Jedi. Rex ducks low and fires from under one of the guards' sweeping strikes. A rocket slams into the second, blasting him through the doorway in flames. The others try to keep the clones back as Vader slips through to engage the Emperor. Palpatine stands at the window, watching the city burn. He doesn't turn.
I warned them, all of them, that your kind would turn.
My kind.
Slaves.
You make this so easy.
I made soldiers. You made traitors. You will never rule this empire.
Lightning surges from his fingertips. Vader raises his saber and blocks it, stepping forward through the storm. Once it clears, he rushes forward, lightsaber flashing behind him. The Emperor's own weapon ignites, parrying the strikes and pushing it back. Lightning bursts a second time, but Vader sidesteps, leaving it exploding on the wall behind him. Reaching for the shards that fall out, he hurls them towards the Emperor, who pushes them aside. But Palpatine whirls and thrusts his lightsaber at Vader's chest, trying to drive it into his heart. The Dark Lord side-leaps it, but Palpatine is on him again, weapon flashing in a flurry of blows, each one aiming to kill. They crash through the furniture. Holo-displays short out in bursts of blue static when Vader accidentally slashes it, but he sweeps his lightsaber forward to send sparks flying towards his master. He hisses and raises his hand to block the blows. Palpatine responds by hurling chairs with the Force. Vader cuts through them midair. Outside, Rex leans against the wall, watching, breathing hard. The Red Guards are dead, and he can see the fight growing in ferocity as the two are thrown back. Around them, darkness radiates outward as both men dig deeper into their rage. Through a break in the fight, he sees Palpatine charging energy again, another surge of lightning. Rex has one of his men bring up a rocket launcher.
Sky Guy, duck.
Vader drops. The rocket slams into Palpatine's chest, hurling him across the room. He hits the far wall hard, body crumpling through the durasteel frame. And yet, somehow, he manages to unleash another torrent of lightning. It strikes Vader point blank and leaves his armor smoking as he screams in pain. The Dark Lord throws his head back and tries to take the pain, but manages to lift up his lightsaber and push it aside. Palpatine tries to rise while Anakin is distracted, but Rex smacks him with a stun baton and promptly begins to beat him again and again until he slips over, his face covered in bruises and blood pouring from his lips. Vader stands. Palpatine tries to rise, smoking robes torn, hands shaking.
You need me.
Vader ignites his saber one last time.
No.
The blade drives through Palpatine's chest. The Sith Lord convulses, eyes wide, mouth open in a final gasp. Then, silence. The Emperor is dead. Rex and Vader descend the steps into the center floor. The surviving senators are kneeling under guard. A hush falls over the chamber as Vader steps onto the central podium. He orders the Senate to declare martial law in the Republic. With the clones staring down at them from the barrels of their blasters, it is clear they have little choice in the matter and make the declaration. This places Vader as the supreme leader of the Empire, with the clones as his private army. He sends orders to continue production while training the new Stormtrooper Corps, though they are now beneath the clones in the military hierarchy. Yet Vader does not rule with the greed and excess of Palpatine. He instead turns his attention to ridding the galaxy of slavery entirely. This dictatorship takes over where Palpatine left off, consolidating power of the Empire and adding new territories to it. As it happens, Vader works to remove the clones' artificial aging and allowing them to age normally, ensuring he will always have an army to call upon. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.